Hey y'all, this is TCA Gaming, and in this video we are going to go over a PSA pack return. I'm also going to have you guys, if you'd like, put a question down there or comment or something that you'd like to say for the 80K. We did break the 80,000 mark for the number of subscribers since our last video, and if you have any questions that you'd like answered, just throw them down there in the description and I'll do my best to answer all of them unless we get like 1,000 questions. I highly doubt that we get more than like 50, but whatever you guys put down there, I'll do my best to answer. Please do keep it appropriate. Now, it has been a few weeks. I appreciate everyone's patience and waiting on me. I've been enjoying hanging out outside with the family. We've been doing things, turning into spring very quickly. Spring's going into summer. It's supposed to be like 85 here this week. Just today. Tomorrow's supposed to be like 88, then 88 again the next day. And I mean, that's pretty much summer once you get to that point. But I'm going to go ahead and start off with some of these PSA pack returns. I'm going to briefly talk about some of them, but there may be some other things that I'll talk about. Like before we jump into it, let me see if I can pull this up. Because, well, doesn't look like it. I was going to briefly mention, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but eBay has changed up how they do the listings. And I know a lot of you think that the market's just like down. It might be tariffs. It's slow. There's a couple things going on with the market right now, so we're going to go over that here in a little bit. But let's look at some of these PSA graded cards. So here we've got a base set pack Venusaur pulled to 9. Got a 10 on a Blastoise. Let's see which stack is bigger. We did pretty good in some of the previous ones. Got a 10 on that Blastoise artwork for base set. There's an 8 for Team Rocket. That's not the best grade. I definitely don't want the 8s right now. There's a 9 on another Team Rocket pack, especially with Team Rocket being so popular right now. There's another 9 on a Team Rocket pack. I think I did best on my Team Rocket packs. These are all from so what I did was I would take like 4 to 8 packs from, there were light packs, or most likely light packs from Team Rocket, from base set, Japanese base, a lot of the pack boxes that we opened up, and I would submit them in. Now, any of the modern packs, I don't even know how you can weigh those things, so those are just standard unweighed packs. Legacy of Darkness, I've sent in a lot of these, and I have not done very well with them. Mostly 7s and 8s, a few 9s. There's a 151 pack. A lot of the modern packs, I just took a nice looking pack because there's so many of them. I don't know what happened here, like why this one got a 7 whereas the other one got a 10, because they all were pretty nice. Man, it looks like that thing would be hitting the cards where it's at. So that was a random 7 there. Here's some of the Japanese packs, pulled 10s on most of these in this order, because I did briefly look at it, but it's been a few weeks. PSA is still really behind on their orders, at least with timing of shipping and stuff, and I think they're trying to make up some of their time, their like turnaround times with that. There's a 10 on a Rocket, nice. So far the 10s are the highest stack. Got another 9 on a Venusaur artwork, 10 on a Japanese base. It's the 291 yen, but these are the long crimp, and I believe the short crimp have a better shot, if I remember correctly, at having no rarity, or maybe it's the only shot at having no rarity. I'm not really too sure on that one. I think Z&G had a box of that at one point. 10 on a Surging Sparks Pikachu pack. Can't grade too many of these modern packs. It's very expensive compared to the price of the pack itself. So typically I'm actually taking a bit more time looking at the packs, making sure that I think that they'll get a 10 and not get a random 7 like that Shining Fates pack. So I'm not sure what happened there. Got another 9 on a Team Rocket pack. These will be available for sale. I don't have them up just yet. You're welcome to send me a message if you like, but I'll have them up on eBay most likely next week after the Easter break. There's a 9 on a Legacy of Darkness. And there's another 8. These are all from that LOD box. Look at that. We have finally pulled a 10 from Legacy of Darkness. All right, so that's it. Looks like the 10 did outweigh the other stacks. 9 was pretty close. So overall, really good submission for graded packs. Now, I will throw a few things here in the background while we talk for a minute about PSA turnaround times. They have very much slowed down for me, almost to a halt. I did get this back, but this is like a pack graded submission, so these typically take longer as it is. But this was one of my older submissions. But I don't know if you guys have noticed as well, like for any of you who have had orders that go through, usually what happens is they'll charge you. As soon as they charge you, you can go and see the grades online. And as soon as you see the grades online, typically the way it was before, they would have a tracking number for you and it'd be shipping either that day or the next day. Now that's like a 1 week delay, sometimes even longer, before the package actually makes it into the mail system. But once it does get there, it's a pretty quick process. But I believe that's another way that they've kind of extended the turnaround time, but it doesn't look as bad because it's not really like in the system. It shows it's completed. Usually shows it's completed on the date that they charge you. And on the front end of it, when they receive the package, sometimes it's delayed before it's ever like put in there as received. Even the tracking has been doing some weird things for some of my packages. At least, like it makes it right there, and then it doesn't actually get scanned in as delivered till a little bit later. So that's strange as well. But overall, they're still moving pretty well. I do believe that maybe in preparation for what has been going on with eBay, along with some other things, that is possibly made the delays, it made them worse, exacerbated like the overall delays, but it's really nothing compared to what we had during COVID. If you guys remember that, I had some orders out over 2 years. It was kind of crazy to see how long that stuff took to get back. Most of the orders that were out that long though did go through middlemen, and I guess because they just had massive amounts of orders, and there was also some other issues there. Now I don't know if the plastic part of it coming from China has any issues that affect, or if there are any issues on that end that affect what PSA or CGC or BGS or whoever puts Pokemon in plastic, if it's affecting their bottom line or their prices. So I guess we'll see. But overall, I'm still very happy with PSA service. I still use it. I still send in cards. And yeah, if you've never did it before, use my code TCA25. And I get a kickback if you do, and you also get some money off. So that's I don't have a code for anybody else in the grading companies other than DGS, Diamond Grading Services, and that's also down there in the description if you're ever wondering or if you want to see that. I did want to, let me touch on what I was talking about at the beginning of the video. So if your eBay sales have slowed, in general, this is going to be one of the slowest times of the year. For me, my stuff doesn't typically pick back up until late July, August, but that is mostly due because I take a lot of June off. There's my birthday, my wife's birthday, our anniversary. Usually it's the beginning of summer. I'm really wanting to enjoy time outside, doing vacation here and there. But a lot of people do notice upticks during June as it is, July a little bit more. And then once you start getting back to where school starts, usually it really picks up all the way through like the November, well, the end of October, beginning of November. And then, you know, you can kind of ride that even through December. Really isn't that bad. It's usually a lot better than middle of the summer, but that's what I've seen as like a typical cycle for Pokemon. However, you know, everybody's kind of freaking out because the prices went up so much and then they got stale and they're coming back down. You got tariffs, you have all these other things. And I want to say, just to add to that, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but if you look at this listing, there's something that, typically before they would always highlight pretty well. So if you look over here where it says $219, let's see if I can pull that out over here, right here with the $219. You come down here, it used to be in nice and red below here how many items have sold. And that was, even for me, when I go to buy things, I look for, like if I'm buying, say, bubble mailers, I don't care that I have to pay an extra 5 cents to make sure I get the bubble mailers sent actually to me, and they tell me what shipping services they're going to use. Because I have a shipping service that I use for UPS, and I have a shipping address that I use for UPS, and another one that I use for USPS. And if they just say general expedited shipping, but they don't say what it is, but then they block me from using UPS, it's like, okay, you know, I don't mind paying a little bit extra for a clear-cut sale from a seller that has had a lot of sales, and it shows exactly where they're shipping it. But this right here, this part where it shows the 206 has already sold, that used to be much more prominent on the listing. It used to be right in here in red, kind of like, I don't know if you guys can see, it's probably where my face is, but over to the left it actually shows in red in 11 carts. It's kind of like one of those things that push you to buy it because you can see that there's a history of people who've been buying it. Like this one right here is 206 sold, 915 people watching it. This is one of my most popular items, and I've noticed that a lot of my really popular items they've almost went from daily sales for years now to a halt, to almost nothing. And that could be coupled with the other things that we already talked about, where the market's just a little bit slower. People are they're not as bullish right now about the market because they're seeing prices come back. Maybe they're worried about tariffs. There's other things that could be involved on my end as well. Like if you guys have looked at, if you go to my eBay home front, let's see. Just put that in there. So I don't really have anything that's been look, that's the best match right now for me because I just looked at it. Look, I've only listed a few cards. If you go all the way back to MetaZoo, this trading card, like this box was listed back in the end of March. So really, if you look right here, there's almost been nothing new that are brought into my store. I don't have many auctions. I got one auction up right now. And so because of that, my search results might be lower. So it may not only be that, but I found it interesting that eBay would remove that feature. Well, they didn't remove the feature, they moved it. And you can't even click on items at all now to see, like you used to be able to click on an item. Let's go back to best match so I can just show you that one. So you used to be able to click on the 206 that are already sold, and you could go see when they sold, how much they sold for, because some items, if you use the out of stock feature, you can actually be using an entirely different item. What I would do is, if I had something that had like 1,000 watchers like this and I completely sold out of it, what I would do is I'd let it sit at 0 quantity for like 3 months. And then I would reuse the listing. So I'd still have to pay for that listing. However, that 3 months would allow anybody who bought the old card to they've gotten everything received. It doesn't mess it up in their purchase history. And then I could reuse that listing and put a new item into it. And right now you can't actually see that. So you can't go in there and see, when these sold, who they sold to, how much they sold for. Because if you see an item that, there's 100 of them sold and it's like a case of the newest Pokemon set, and it looks like it just come out, and like, well, that doesn't really make that much sense. You could go back in there and check to see that, oh look, the previous sales for this item were only like $50 instead of $1,000. So it wasn't a case before, it was just something different, and those sales they're not really connected to it. So they've kind of what's that word that Dan says, obfuscate, whatever it is. Basically they've hidden that information so you can't really see it as well. But anyways, I just want to touch on that because I think that's just one thing that probably people aren't going to pick up on as much, but it could affect some of your sales for long-term items that you do typically see a lot of sales for on a daily basis or weekly basis or something like that. But anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. I did have some other things that I might have potentially talked about with MetaZoo or CGC, but I think what we're going to do is I'm going to hold off on that for now because I try to throw in too many subjects, I feel like, at once in one video, and it kind of muddles it all up. But hope you have a great Easter weekend, and I should see you next week with another video. Thanks.